What up, word? It's your boy. I go by a lot of different names, but who I am ain't important. It's what I do and who I do it for. It's been a minute, but I call this one Sowing and Reaping. Watch it a couple of times if you need to. And go.
This is Farmer Bill. Say hi, Farmer Bill. Farmer Bill sows for a living because he's a farmer. Sowing is Farmer Bill's work. Sowing is what Farmer Bill does to make money. Point 1. Sowing is what you do to make money, i.e., your job. Now, not many of us are farmers. Would you agree with that, Bill? But we all sow because sowing is work. When someone sows, they work. They are virtually synonymous. So whether you are a bag boy bagging groceries, a doctor performing surgery, or a teacher teaching in the classroom, it's all sowing. Now, why explain this? It's widely believed that sowing is something you do when you drop an envelope into a collection plate. That's just not true. That's just not true. Bill, let me ask you a question. Do you belong to a church? Good, good. When you go to church, do you give? Good, great. When you go to church, do you sow? Well, where do you sow, Bill? Exactly. Point 2. Unless you literally work for your church and receive a paycheck, you do not sow at church as far as money is concerned. Bill sows at work, and then he reaps a literal harvest, be it carrots, beets, or potatoes. For us non-farmers, we sow at work and we reap a paycheck. This is very important to understand. Let's keep going. When you give, God blesses your sowing, or the work of your hands. God said, "Test me in this, and see won't I throw open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive." Now, why is this important? Because the windows of heaven literally means rain. Now, back in the day, people's livelihood was largely agricultural. In short, a lot of people provided for themselves and their families by farming. So for a farmer, rain was the difference between feeding your family and them starving. So no matter how much work Farmer Bill does, it would be for nothing if God didn't rain on it. Sidebar: God sends rain on the just as well as the unjust, but giving is the believer's way to guarantee rain. Point 3. Rain equals profitability. When you work and then you give, God makes your work profitable. Make sense? You don't sow at church. You sow at work. So why make the distinction between sowing and giving? What you notice is that in the sowing and reaping principle, the sowing or working portion has been pushed to the background, and we are living the results of that. If you sow sparingly, you reap sparingly, right? A lot of us are sowing sparingly, coming into work late, doing just enough not to get fired, repeating that all too common phrase, "I don't get paid enough for that." See? Sowing sparingly, giving a just enough effort. So then what happens? You reap sparingly. You get a just enough paycheck, just enough to pay bills, just enough to buy groceries. And that causes a shortage in your bank account. So then because of that shortage, it makes you fearful of giving, which holds back the rain on the little seeds you are sowing at work, and so on and so on. Vicious cycle. My brothers and sisters, this does not have to be. Break the cycle. God's people only perish if we lack knowledge. You sow at work. You give at church. Do both bountifully, and God's principle has no choice but to work. By the way, thanks, Bill, for the assistance. Great job.
You don't sow at church. And it's not a thing of like semantics, like tomato, tomato. They're two different things. Two completely different things. I'm not super saint, but what I do know about God is that God gets results. What I've come to know about God is that His word is true. If what He said is not working, either I'm doing something wrong or He didn't say it. And that's just the bottom line. But a lot of times the way it's portrayed is that all you have to do is put something in the offering bucket and that's it. God gonna multiply that as if that's the seed. And it's not the seed. It's not the seed. Because if that was the case, all you would have to do is put $1 in the bucket one time. And that would be it. That's all you have to do. Because that will get multiplied 100-fold, and now that 100-fold, you give some more, and then that will get multiplied 100-fold, and then so on and so on. And you will never have to do anything. That's not the way it works. You sow seed on your job. You sow seed at the work that you do. And then when you reap a harvest from that seed, you take from that and you give an offering. And then God makes your work, you sowing, He makes that work profitable. Promotions, raises, new ideas. If you don't have a clear understanding of that, you'll be spinning your wheels forever. You'll be frustrated. You'll try and tie things together like, okay, I think this is a harvest off of the money that I put in the offering plate. Because I mean, at the end of the day, things do happen. Things do happen. Miracles happen. Like you getting a check in the mail that you weren't expecting. That's not a harvest. That's a miracle. The principle of sowing and reaping isn't a miracle. Reaping is not a miracle. If you go out and put some seed in the ground, if Farmer Bill goes out and plants some corn, when corn comes out of the ground, that's not a miracle. That's the way it works. That's the way God set it up to work. When you really start to pull back and look at it for what it is, God's word is true. Because I mean, think about it like this. If I put one seed in the ground and then somebody else plants thousands of seeds, when the rain comes, the blessing the work of my hands, God gonna bless the work that I did putting that one seed in the ground. God gonna bless the work that the other person did putting 1,000 seeds in the ground. But when we get a harvest, our harvest is gonna be completely different because of the amount of sowing that we did. I hope and I pray that this makes sense. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Man, it's so important to get this though. Man, I had it wrong. I had it wrong for a long time. And I had to pull back and say, wait a minute, God. What am I missing? And I started seeking. And He showed me. I hope this makes sense. I hope and I pray that it makes sense. If it's anything where you need more of an explanation, leave a comment and I do that. Yeah. I'm just saying.